Hello, everybody. This is Otis. You're listening to Hear the Call Music, and we call this show Hear the Community, where we interview local musicians and artists in the Santa Cruz area. We're all locked in, but we got to keep the music and arts alive because it's just a very important thing to me. And I can go on and talk about how important it is, but let's get right to our interview right now. We're going to bring up a friend of mine that I've known for some years now. He's been a Santa Cruz staple as a musician. And let's go ahead and hear him right now. And let's welcome Toby.
Otis, how you doing today? It's another beautiful day here in Santa Cruz. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, this is a lot of fun. I've been doing this for a little bit here and getting used to this whole switching thing in a whole new world. Again, I like to let people know that I love to play music, but I feel my role here in Santa Cruz is to support music, and once in a while I'll get to play, but that's not as important as supporting local music and talents. So, Toby, I always like to start the interview with asking a few questions about how you started getting involved with music, maybe some of your schooling, and then of course how you ended up in Santa Cruz. So if you could fill us in on that.
Sure. I grew up in the Midwest, Ohio to be exact, and my my parents and our family had instruments. We had a grand piano in the house. My mother had been a music major in college, and so they kind of imparted the importance of music very early on. And back in those days, the public schools had really good music programs. Uh, fourth grade on, all the way through high school, I had a delightful education. We had some guys in high school who were the band directors that were basically teaching freshman level music appreciation and theory there in high school. So by the time I got out of that, went on to college at Butler University, accepted as a music major, and playing upright bass, studying theory. Part of the deal at Butler was to you had to join the union in order to play the concert hall there on the campus, and that was like the best thing that ever happened to me because the next thing I'm doing union gigs around Indianapolis, meeting some folks uh, that eventually took me out to Los Angeles and a gig with Dick Clark. So, but it was all kind of from that early education of kind of just sticking through the schools until you got into the professional unions and everything. That kind of launched my being able to play and travel and um, crazy. It's kind of like be careful what you wish for, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I see here. So that was in Indianapolis, right? That school was that. Is that correct?
Right, but Butler University, they had a real nice music school ballet department, and but the union gigs around there were tremendous. I mean, I you could make a lot of money back in the union in those days, and that's kind of took me away from college, and I just went into playing via that. So that was Indianapolis. Played around there a lot. Got to play with some wonderful people. Uh, Spent a summer up in Detroit playing with the drummer from Sammy Sears Orchestra, which was the old Jackie Gleason band. And one of those gigs took me down to Hilton Head Island, where Larry McDonald, who's quite a become quite well known as a reggae percussionist, was in a little combo. We played out there by the harbor every night, and it's just the immersion of being young but playing with some really good players was pretty hip.
Wow. So that was really interesting when you mentioned Jackie Gleason. The first thing I thought of was I was raised by my grandparents, and that was a once a week staple in our house to watch that show. And of course, a lot of people that are going to watch this aren't going to even know who the hell Jackie
No
Gleason is.
idea was. Yeah, Jackie Gleason and Red Skelton and all those guys were like staples. I was raised by my grandparents also. So yeah, I think our Midwestern hayride back there and some of those kind of shows were what what they liked. Like Lorst Welk, all of it. You know.
Right. And I see something here about Hilton Head Island was.
Yeah, that was that gig that It was a summer gig that I picked up through the union contacts. And then I was just mentioning Larry McDonald, who is a kind of world class percussionist. He played with Taj Mahal and he played with Gil Scott Heron for a number of years. He was on stage with us. It was a little four piece, and it was just one of those things where the quality of the band, the piano player had like his PhD, heavy players, and I was kind of just a young kid getting to soak it up. So it was a good experience.
All right, great. So moving on, real quick, before we go into the next topic that I see here on a list of questions to ask you, I wanted to ask you, how did you end up in Santa Cruz?
Ah, very good, very good. Well, uh, some people that I knew from Indianapolis. You know, a lot of this goes back to those days that I played music with. Um, they moved down to LA in the early 70s. Um, I'll try not to let this get too long, but anyway, they were in LA, living up in Laurel Canyon, and they got a gig working with Dick Clark Productions, backing up some of his road bands and stuff. They needed a bass player. So they brought me out there, and that's how I got hooked up playing with Dick Clark and those guys, his production companies. Had a little place up in Laurel Canyon for a little while. I was never there, but it was a beautiful spot. And we did that for a few years. We went our ways, and then that same group of people ended up in Lake Tahoe for a couple of winters. I was part of that for a while, and then they moved down to Santa Cruz. And when I was on the road later on, had a chance to play down here. I visited them. They were living out on the west side, out there near the circles, and I loved this place. Fell in love with it. You know how what's not to like here. So I spent a number of years on the road, but about 1985, when I decided to kind of pull out and find a place to live here full time, uh, we came out and got a place down there by the cement boat, and have been here ever since. Did a lot of stuff. I was still playing with and by that point time, I was working with some of the It's a Beautiful Day crew. I was on the road with those guys on and off for 40 years. And we had kind of broken up after being based in Salt Lake City. And so this was the obvious place I wanted to end up. Uh, Started living here full time. Ran into Dee Monroe from the old Loose Ends band. And I gigged with him and his crew for a couple of years. And let's see, we had a little band called Wild Boars that played Callahan's way back when the stage was set up in front of the dartboard. That was scary. Um, and eventually, that band kind of split up and became the Roadhogs. And the Roadhogs were around here for about 20 years. Various, R&B, Motown oriented, always vocal oriented, and played a lot of fun gigs. You know, played all the normal spots, the Catalyst, opening up for major acts in the Crow's Nest, and uh, some of the first night festivals when they were going. That was a good time. You played with us. You sat in with us at the big stage in the Catalyst, as I remember. So the good old days. And
Yeah, yeah, and funny, looking back on some of your experience when you moved to LA and living in Laurel Canyon, of course, a lot of us musicians went and saw that movie, and wow, what an experience that must have been. And sure glad you ended up coming to Santa Cruz so you could bring your talent to share with all of us here. I consider Santa Cruz like the sister to Berkeley when it comes to art.
it is. It is a lot like the East Bay. I lived in Oakland for a little while, and it is very supportive. You know, if you want, you can do about anything you want, I believe, because there's such a wealth of talent. You can find people, projects, people, kind of at your level. As you know, part of the issues of putting together a band or a group of people is finding people who have kind of the same desires, same time schedule, blah, 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 and fit in talent wise. And if you have a big enough pool, which you do down here, you can do a lot. I had a production company for a long time. whenever I had to do recordings and that type of stuff, I called it Life Song Studios, and that blossomed out into a lot of the sideways of being in the music business here in Santa Cruz, doing backline rentals and recordings, and for a while I did some graphic arts. Uh, Mixed sound for a lot of up at Don Quixote's for a number of years, that in the Brookdale Lodge. So there were a lot of sideways of making extra income besides just being on stage around here. Plus, I was able to travel with It's a Beautiful Day as they had gigs. For a long time, we were averaging probably about 3 dozen gigs a year, uh, which got me out of town, which was really nice, kind of have that yin and yang of living in paradise and yet get out and see the world a little bit.
Oh, well, that's great. And then let's see. I see notes here. Tell us a little bit about what Highway Buddha is all about.
Okay, Highway Buddha. After the Roadhog started to slow down, a little bit before that, I started thinking more of a solo project or doing things that were not Roadhog oriented dance material, something a little bit more down my chute where I could front the band. And that was the Highway Buddha concept. Did several CDs with them. There's a graphic in there. You can probably throw that up later on if you can. And the it was just a good basis of being able to do the wineries, the restaurants, some holistic drum gatherings kind of events, and then of course some original material, which was always close to every musician's heart, I think. And so that had some side projects. Highwaybuddha.com will take you there, and that's got a lot of videos and information and some things from the concerts I've done with them. Some of them were bluegrass oriented, where I got to work with some stellar local musicians like Patty Maxine and Laurel Thomas, and um, the just that's just a lot of fun. You can't make your living doing it, but it was just that's kind of the what I would call the bluegrass stem was called Harlan County Covey. So at the Brookdale Bluegrass Festival and some of those, you may see that pop up on occasion. And then T-Bone Mojo was born out of that. I decided I wanted to start a branch based on blues, roots blues, kind of acoustic electro blues. I wanted to play some of the barbecue joints and some of the blues festivals and that kind of stuff. And that really became one of the most fun projects I've ever done in my life. And that's what I'm focusing on. That's what I was focusing on when we kind of hit the wall here with the COVID thing. So um, I'm still wearing those clothes. I mean, nothing's changed. Everything stopped, and so T-Bone Mojo right now is my project, and tbonemojo.com has a lot of that information. There's a link off the highwaybuddha.com site as well to that. So that's what I'm having a lot of fun with. Just the blues, playing some resonator and some six-string flat picking kind of stuff. Um, Slowly, there's been the options to add other people in. I found a wonderful lady, Debbie Kravlovich, who plays scrub, and she's a Creole Cajun kind of player, and that really kind of lit a fire with it. And then a lady named Joanne Tanner plays some wonderful violin. She's one of these classically trained people who has just huge ears and hears the roots music nicely. And I was looking forward to kind of bringing that trio out. We were just on the very edge, just beginning to turn the door handle on bringing it into the room. And here we are. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Well, great. Also, I wanted to mention to everybody out there that we have some links above the post that'll take you to Toby Gray's websites, and so you can get in contact with him. Also, Toby, I've noticed that you have been on doing a lot of stuff via streaming on Facebook. You've been on how many days a week now, or
Well, I started out. I've done. I'm probably approaching 60 streams now. I started out right after my last gig, about a week later, the middle of March, and I did a couple weeks, and then I did like 33 days straight. That was like being on the road. It sounded like a great idea, and it was. I got to play a lot of stuff. And it was a nice way of kind of build a following of people. So I was doing 7 days a week for um, 33 days there, almost a month, and or over a month. And I dropped back to a couple times a week. Now I'm doing it once a week. Originally it was hardly anybody else was doing it, and so it was really a lot of fun because a lot of people were dialing in and stuff. Market became rather saturated quickly, and we are where we are now, where you got Derek Trucks and everybody, Jackie Green streaming almost every day, and it's a wonderful time for music. Um, but I've decided to be a little bit more choosy about what I'm doing out. I've got a core group of folks that like to tune in, and hopefully they'll probably check this out. We'll put this up on my site, the link of this when it gets going out there. So, but yeah, streaming is kind of where we're at. I'm thinking for the next, first I thought it was going to be a few month ordeal, but now it's looking like this is what we've got to really work with for probably up until at least the first year, if not early next year. Um, so, people like yourself putting together the tools to do more than somebody just sitting on their couch kind of thing is really nice. I see the Capitola Festival series is going virtual this year. They're streaming Alex Lucero here on Wednesday night. So that's a big change in reality of not filling Capitola up with people for that music event. Um, so I don't know. What's your thoughts on?
well, I'm actually going to get to that right now. Um, but before we do that, let's go ahead and go to one of your videos and check it out.
Okay. How long, baby, how long was this evening train been gone? How long, baby, how long, baby, how long? Went to the station, didn't see no train. Oh, down my heart, I got an aching pain. How long, baby, how long, baby, how long? I feel disgusted, I feel so sad. Oh, how long time that I once had. Tell me how long, baby, how long, baby, how long? I see the green grass growing on the hill. I don't see no greenback on a dollar bill. How long, baby, how long, baby, how long? You're gonna be so sorry, yeah, you're gonna be blue. When you want me, yeah, girl, I ain't gonna be around here no more. Tell me how long, tell me how long, baby, how long? no money to ride that train, I'd ride the rod skill just to be with you again. Tell me how long, baby, 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 how long. How long? The old How Long blues.
Hey, Toby, that was great to watch, and that's what you're doing every day, or pretty much every day, or whenever you can. And we really appreciate you doing that.
It's it's an honor to be able to play. It keeps me in shape, keeps my mind working for the most part, and yeah, thank you. So
Right. So, before we sign off with Toby, I wanted to remind everybody that this is Hear the Call Music, doing these interviews with musicians. If you'd like to be involved with this program, go ahead and message me because we want to keep the arts alive in Santa Cruz. It's all to help out the community. And it's not only musicians, but other artists. And I'd also like to talk to some restaurant owners and see how they're doing, especially the ones that are promoting music during this tough time. Hear the Call Music is going live stream. We're actually going to be doing broadcasts of bands, one of which is going to be Vintage Point on July 5th. We're broadcasting with 3 cameras and full-on mixing and embedding all that sound into Cat 5 directly to you. So we're going to have high-quality video, multi-camera with the sound. And that's something that we also here at Hear the Call Music can offer for not only your band, but if you've got a meeting, if you're a business in town, or you want to do some kind of promotion at your restaurant, go ahead and message me, get a hold of me, and we could talk about how we can help you out. And that's a little bit of what Hear the Call Music is. We're all reinventing ourselves during this COVID crisis, but I'm really thinking good thoughts about how we're going to get on the other side of this and how this is all going to be integrated into or come more to the forefront with this streaming thing after we get out of the COVID thing and we can all start playing live music and listening to live music and dancing and having a good time again. So with that said, Toby, I want to send it back to you for any closing thoughts.
Otis, I just really want to thank you for doing this and including me in it. We've known each other for a long, 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 long time. We don't really get to run into each other a lot, but I really appreciate what you're doing out there with the audio, visual, and besides your playing. So you stay healthy. Everyone out here watching, please be healthy. I love you. You all love yourselves. And hopefully we will see you in the clubs or the wineries here soon. If not, live streaming on Facebook, on my Facebook timeline. God bless y'all.
All right, and with that, thanks again, Toby, for being with us today. And we're going to go ahead and sign off. We'll see you next time.